addicts, welcome back to another video. This time we are returning to the IDW run of TMNT with volume 7. Look at my man Mikey. He's looking great on that cover. This is actually one of my favorite covers they've done so far. I think it just has so much personality and flair, especially of the character. I just love that, you know, Mikey's got his nunchucks around his neck. He's got that big grin, just looking like he's gonna crack like a one-liner or something. You also do have him on the back there, as well as his signature orange for the spine. And I think it's just overall like a really nice one. I hope that they do some more for this cover, for these covers, like putting them in poses. You know, even like I want them to keep the close-up so it all matches, but like just doing something more like this where it's got some more flair. Because some of the other ones, they're just standing there, and I don't know. It's just. It doesn't scream. Maybe it's because Mikey's just so much of an emoting character in general that it's just so natural that his cover screams a little bit more there. But anyway, this volume, man, I tell you, it has a lot going for it. Now, there's still a few minor things overall that I think do bug me a tad. But I still really love this volume, and I can't wait to talk about it with you guys. So, with that being said, let me go over what's in the book. So, this book actually entails the ongoing series issues numbers 51 to 64, and that's it. There is no, like, breaks in between the ongoing issues for a micro series one shot or a spin-off series or, you know, like whatever they're gonna do. This is just pure unfiltered ongoing series story, and I think that actually is a huge plus for it. And not that I don't want them to include all of the other canon stuff that is tied in with the series, but I would appreciate there being more focus on the ongoing series rather than like these tie-in stuff. Now, like, let me just say, I loved a lot of the tie-in stuff. Just forget about crossovers. Like that Ghostbusters one, it didn't even need to happen. Sorry, that's from like a couple of volumes ago. But anyway, so let's get in here. So even though that there's 13 issues in this volume, there's about really 6 big plot points I think that you could kind of take away and say that's the essence of the volume. So I'll go over those briefly and kind of, you know, as like an, what would you call it? I'm losing the word, but kind of like a wide range approach, so we're not spoiling too much of like the inner workings of the stories. Now we will talk about some more details of the story that's going to be more spoiler filled once we get to the pros and cons, but right now I'm just kind of breaking down to tell you what's in this. So we do have towards the beginning part of the volume that kind of leads into a prominent focus throughout this whole book is Splinter and the Eternals being apart and leading the Foot Clan, which is some of, I honestly, I can't think of another story approach or like another storyline thing that they could do that would be more intriguing. I think just having the Turtles being a part of the Foot Clan and kind of running the city through the Foot Clan is so wild and so badass. I love it. And so I think for that, it's got, you know, a lot of intrigue going into it. Like, how is these going to turn out? You know, obviously, it kind of feels like they got enemies on all sides, even internally. You got also a lot of strife with a bunch of characters because they all have different feelings about this approach and where things are going. And also, it does feel more of, even though they kind of are trying to keep it as a family, it does feel more as like an army instead of a family now. So I think there's definitely some transformations in there as well that kind of lead to some really cool stuff. But you do have that being a main focus and kind of having this overarching conflict with another power grab in the city that leads to a new faction arising with some new characters and the Foot trying to snuff it out. And I think it's just really cool seeing the Turtles in and on like the flip side of where they've always been, right? With, you know, whenever there's something like this happening before, it's always going to be them against, you know, the Foot or any other ruling clash. And so it's kind of cool seeing them trying to squish out all of these criminal organizations actually with the very enemy they like swore against. So really dope. I can't say enough about that. But we also get on with Mikey being on his own, which was kind of left off in the last volume at the end, right, with Mikey getting a very firm stance of being very vocal of this is not what he signed up for. This is something that he thinks completely goes against everything that they stand and fought for. So I think that's a really cool place to have Mikey, because we get to see him interact with a bunch of different things in the city. And I think Michelangelo has always been one of those, at least in this version of the story, that doesn't, or at least he's always kind of talked down on as like, oh, because he's like the quote unquote the youngest, he doesn't understand certain situations, or like he's got more of a child's I guess mentality of like how things can be, or it's like more like black and white versus it being a bit more in the gray area. So because there's always been those kind of like, I'll call them jabs to Mikey, I think this is a perfect way for him to even if like maybe he didn't suffer from those things, kind of get a wake-up call and just where he's at, knowing that he's got really no place he can really go, or feel like he's at home, where it doesn't clash, or like having him sacrifice with some of the things he stands for. So I do really like kind of that journey you see Mikey throughout this volume. You do also get in some mix-ups with the mutant animals, which the mutant animals appearance in this volume, I think, is probably the best of the mutant animals we've seen so far, and that's including the mutant animals like mini series. I don't know, I just liked I always think that the mutant animals are cool, but they're always at their best when they're interacting with other characters that we really love, especially like the turtles primarily. But I think because Mikey has more of a connection with the mutant animals, because he kind of does have the same desire as a lot of the other mutant animals, maybe minus Hob, or at least has more clashes with Hob's ideals. But and especially with his track record with Slash, that leads to just overall some really great directions. And I can't wait to see, because of where we ended in the volume, or in this volume with the mutant animals, what their relationship with the turtles as a whole will be going forward. So I think that will also lead to another switch up, because you kind of had this back and forth of the mutant animals being allies, then not being so much allies, and maybe not necessarily being enemies or full out enemies, but those things might change. Now you do also have some action at Burnow Island. You get Honeycutt asking the turtles to come to help him, I guess, revive or awaken the utroms on the now terraformed, well, I guess it's not terraformed, it's the, whatever you would call the Utrom homeworlds, formed Burnow Island now. And then also the introduction of another fan favorite character, Leatherhead. This is one that's like been teased so much, I feel like, or for a very long time. I don't know, maybe it's just because it's been a little while reading in between the volumes, but I feel like there was so much build up for Leatherhead coming, and we finally got the full like on panel reveal of him, and he looks dope. I do like the kind of switch up they give with his characters. There's a bit of change with his origin that lets him be more directly connected to the turtles. It's kind of funny that coincidentally, like, the turtles are the reason that Leatherhead came to be. There's also some connection that you get to play on with the turtles and the utroms that you didn't know was there. There's also I think there's a change in Leatherhead's origin that I think the big one that probably we'll see is kind of like what his alliance will be with certain characters, but also I do like that one thing that they kind of reveal about Leatherhead is that he's much older, that he's been alive for like hundreds of years, and it was not one that was played on too much in this volume, but I think for the possibilities for his character, I think that would be really cool, just seeing that he is a much older being. And I think it also does kind of justify a little bit about why Leatherhead is maybe a little bit more advanced, because I think there's been some times where you do have other iterations of Leatherhead being maybe not like, I guess there was some where he was like really smart, kind of like Donatello, but also there's just one of the ones where he's just a little bit more intelligent, and kind of the same approach they have with like Slash, right? But they change it up a little bit, that I think it lets Leatherhead be still that kind of character, but it's not like a direct copy, or it doesn't feel like it's the exact same as Slash, you know, at least in this version of the story. So I do like that a lot. You do also have the setup for a new faction slash villain coming into the story, and I guess I should clarify, because in the volume there is a new faction and villain introduced, and we do see the conflict play out and end by the end of this volume, but there is a bigger villain that's only teased in the volume, and oof, I can't wait to see it, and that is Agent Bishop. I really do like, I think Agent Bishop is maybe in my top 3 TMNT villains if you take like certain iterations of him. So with that being said, I think I just am super excited to see what this version of him will be like, and if he'll live up to some of his other versions, or if he'll be kind of just like, you know, more of a throwaway villain, or what they're going to do with him. But I'm really excited to see, because all while he's being teased, or like his men are being teased, I guess I should say more primarily, you kind of get to see the extent of the knowledge that they have about the mutants in the city and the different factions at play, and kind of what their main goal or what their focus is on. And I think those little teases of what's to come and what that might mean for his involvement in the story is just really exciting thinking about for the future volumes. But you also do have another villain having a focus in this volume with Kisune and her, I guess, next move in the game with her siblings, moving some pieces, trying to take some. And I think that leads to some cool shakeups within the Foot Clan as well, or at least some cool little scenes play out. And then finally, you do have, this is super cool with the action that they have in it, but you have the Foot Clan and the Purple Dragons versus the Street Phantoms and also some gangsters. So it's pretty cool. Now, as far as new characters go, that's one of the points I want to highlight. Like I said, you know, you do have Leatherhead, really dope. I think the origin, especially, again, like the mix-up with his alliances or where they might take him, I think there's a possibility where he could mash up really well with the mutant animals, and that'd be really dope to see if that's the direction they go. So really good there. Again, like I said, setting up Agent Bishop, that's another one we get to see. There's also, this isn't the first introduction we've seen, but we do see a touchback on Detective Kara, which is the police officer that arrested or at least was investigating Hun, and we do see her interact with Casey, and I'm curious to see if she's going to be a bigger role, or if it's just going to be like, you know, one of those that we see every once in a while that's a very minor character. But I do like having another element played in there, especially that's on kind of the street level. And then speaking of streets, you have the name that I dropped earlier, the Street Phantoms, and Darius Dunn being connected into one force, and I think that's really cool seeing them in there. I wasn't expecting us to see those characters at all, quite frankly, so it was kind of like a nice little like, oh, okay, they're gonna be like, you know, a smaller scale, or like a one volume or like one arc type villain. It's like, okay, yeah, I can dig with that. And I think it's a perfect way to show how much like the Foot has changed, and also the transformation you get of Splinter from father to leader, which I think, you know, that might sound to you maybe a bit more concerning then you might be like rationalizing, but I will say that it is maybe what you think. So the other things I want to talk about for pros, you do have a really cool kind of, I don't know, like Splinter turning into like this like war. It's almost like him reverting back to his old life as, you know, in like feudal Japan, where yes, like the people he's fighting with are considered like brothers, but it's also like people that can very well be expendable, you know. So I do like kind of the militaristic like manipulation that there seems to be at play here. And even when you look at some of the rationales that Splinter uses, it's like actually he's got a point there, you know. But I do like that, even though that there is these seeds of seeing Splinter going down a path that is concerning, but also really cool to see where they're going to take it. I do like that it's not like super sudden, and it's not like, you know, like, oh, he's all of a sudden evil now. I like that there is more of like, you know, there is still good intentions and there still is, you know, good thoughts at heart, but it's just that it's kind of like the mentality of like, if I have to like basically damn my own soul to save the people around me, I'll do it, kind of a thing. So I do like that approach with Splinter. I think it leads to a lot of very cool interactions and reveals, but there is, you know, obviously some of that like, oh no, I don't want to see Splinter like become like a villain essentially, but you know, I think they'll play with that a lot and have fun with it, and I especially enjoyed reading kind of that back and forth with Splinter in this volume. Now you do also have I think as much as the series does a great job with action, I think this volume really brings it. Like, it's insane how much action is packed in this volume, and on the same side of that, how much story we get with it too. Like, the amount of action that's in this volume felt like we should have gotten like half the story that we did, and I'm just like blown away that we got like this much story and this much fighting all at once. It's like, wow, really great stuff though. And it really has a payoff at the end. Like, you know, there's all this action, and then you get to like the final like conflict of the volume, and it's like, wow, that, like, I thought all this was like a lot of action, and then like they really brought it. You know, I thought it was gonna be like a steady state, and it's like, no, it's constantly getting bigger. Now, with that being said, there is still some cons with the story. You do have particularly a few moments. One that comes to mind is a moment with April and Kisune. There is a moment where April is kind of talking to Kisune while she's under house arrest. like that's going to do anything like against like an immortal being that they don't know the extent of their power. But you do have April coming off as, I don't know. I think it's just honestly, it just comes off as like stupidity, which I think is kind of ironic considering like how smart she's supposed to be. But she just like reveals her hand to like Kisune, like being like, yeah, we got all this information on you from this trip. I met your siblings and like, you're a bitch. At least that's what they said. And like, I'm going to take you down. We know what's up. You can't hide from us. You know, kind of a deal. And I don't know, like, I think that kind of interaction is just frustrating, and I don't know why they keep putting April in these situations where she has these kind of like, I don't know, it's just kind of like you read it and you're like, come on, April, what are you doing? Kind of reaction, right? And it's sad to say because April is a great character, and I love April in pretty much every version of TMNT. I mean, she's one of the most like recognizable or like iconic of like the main cast of characters. So it's kind of unfortunate that she has been the source of several cons in the last couple volumes, but it is one that I still gotta like, you know. And then again, it's a little thing here and there. But hey, when the story is this good, some of those little things are kind of like the standouts, you know. There also is another one with a new character named Jenica, and I don't want to say it's not believable. I think it's more so just that it's done so many times in stories that I'm just overseeing it with characters, and that is the fact that you do have Jenica, who is a foot soldier or a foot assassin in the clan, and she ends up doing some things that leaves Splinter to have to come up with a punishment for her, and you do see like her the things that she does is pretty severe, and the fact that Splinter doesn't give her much of a punishment, I think, is kind of naive on his part too as well. But also the fact that she has such a sudden change in stance, I don't know, like, not to say it can't happen or it doesn't happen or it hasn't happened, you know, in some situations, and then it can't be believable in certain scenarios. But I think it's just one that, again, seeing it so many times, it's kind of like one of those that it's just like, I'm cold on it, you know. But also, there's also another thing where it's like, this Jenica character is not really interesting. I liked the little bit that they did with, you know, conflict that she ensued in the plot. But beside that, I don't really need to see this character ever again. I don't really care about this character. So I think just knowing that it's another character that is bloating the cast for literally no reason. So like, there's an opportunity where we're going to see this character that you don't care about again, when we could be getting another interaction from, or like multiple interactions from more beloved characters. That's something that, you know, it's like, you know, I wish we could get that. But, you know, we'll see where it goes in future volumes. Maybe it ends up being something that we end up, you know, really liking this character, or it might be turning into something interesting. But as right now, it just seems like a plot device that lets Splinter do some stuff that is like, whoa, he did that, but like, he's not directly involved, so like, we can forgive Splinter because he didn't do it with his own hands. Or does he have paws? Yeah, whatever. Right hands. But you know, without, you know, him being like irredeemable type thing. So at least that's how I take it. You can let me know if you have a different stance on that. And again, we'll keep an open mind and we'll see where it goes for the future volumes. But the other thing that we have, again, April, she keeps popping up in all of these cons. I don't know what it is. But I think this is more so, it's not just April. I think the whole relationship side of Casey and April and where it's been since they've, what was it? I think it was either the last fight we had or confrontation we had with Hun in the story, or it was when Casey and April had their little mini series type thing, or like their like offshoot series. It was, I don't know, like the beef that they've been, you know, I guess building up with them. I'm not a fan of it, and I think it does lead to some interesting avenues for Casey. I actually really like where they take Casey because of this, so I guess the end sort of justified the means, but I think there was so much focus on it that like getting to that point, or before we got to that point, that just led me to be like, like, can we get this over with? But quite frankly, it may be considered a plus if you think about it, because now we don't have any of this, or at least if they try to blossom it into something new, maybe it'll be done a little bit better than what we've gotten before. But again, I think that whole, there's faults on both sides for the characters, and there's justifications for both sides of the characters, but I think it's just not a very pleasant read when you're looking at the story. I don't know, maybe that's just me. I've just not been a fan for inserting like conflict when there's no need for it, and it didn't really seem like those characters needed conflict. If anything, I thought it would be more interesting having Casey and April that are open and that are you know, like a pair that cannot be separated by anything. So seeing that they're broken apart so easily kind of leaves a bad taste in my mouth. But again, like, it's fine. Different version of the characters, different way you take the story. It's not a big issue. You know, we still have the characters. It's not like they're going anywhere because their relationship status changed, you know? Now, the other thing that I do have is, so there's two moments where like characters get injured or possibly die, out on one of them. But they are kind of like minor deals. One of them is a little bit more apparent. So you do have Splinter getting what do you call it? Injured or like a fake out for him. And this one I think it's like one of those that like it's a comic, and like from like a month to month standpoint, I think it's like one of those where if it wasn't month by month, I don't think it would have been in it the way it was actually done. But because of like the way comics work and how they sell, it's kind of one of those that you just accept. I don't really like it. I don't really think I can say that I like it. It's just one of those where it's like, you know, because I know it's like a staple for comics, it's not really a negative to me. However, I do still not like the fact that there isn't any setup for it. So for instance, I'll just say it here. There's this part where Splinter gets stabbed and it's like in the chest, and it looks like, you know, he just got one-shotted by somebody. And you're kind of left like, oh my gosh, did they just kill Splinter? And then you find out like, oh, off panel, Leo insisted that Splinter wear like a Kevlar vest underneath his robes, and that's what saved his life, you know? And it's like, you know, I think that's it. To me, it's a little bit frustrating, you know, because it's like you purposely put this out of the story or left it out of the story so that we would be left on the edge of our seat. I think maybe an easy, simple way to have it still like that is if you had like just a little moment, like it could just be like a page or 2 pages of Leo, you know, constantly nagging Splinter, like he's walking down a hallway or he's talking to him in private, and you can allude that, you know, he's had this conversation with him multiple times and being like, hey, Father, I worry about your safety. There's a bunch of people here that do not like us, and, you know, not everybody's going to be okay with you just usurping the throne. I butchered that word, by the way. Usurp? Yeah, usurp the throne from Shredder, you know? Like, there's no way people are going to tolerate this. Just wear this when you're out with, like, you know, your bodyguards and stuff like that. It would just make me feel a lot better, you know? And just have Splinter, like, you know, maybe, like, you know, reassure Leo that he's gonna wear it, but like keep brushing it off, or we don't ever, or he's like, I'll get to it later, or he gets interrupted before like he actually gets into it, and then, you know, have that set up there, and then right before this conflict, it's left like a mystery if he put it on or if he not put it on. So like when we see him get stabbed, it's like, oh no, is like Splinter dead, or like was he wearing it? You know, I think that's like a better, like you get the same effect, but it's justified in the story. I don't know. It's like one of those little things again that like maybe from like a writer standpoint or like from like a really delved in fan, like that's something that maybe has a bit more merit. For more casual people, I doubt that it's something that people really care about, but I don't know. It's just one of those little things I throw in there, you know, or at least to me, for personal taste, that's kind of how I view it. There's also, again, like I mentioned, another character that gets injured, and it's so stupid. It's so stupid. I think the thing that makes it really stupid is the fact that a character lashes out with some of our main cast because a character close to him gets mortally injured, or at least minorly injured. I don't know. It's left up there. I think they killed them, but there's a character that kind of says he's going to sever ties with the main cast because of this injury to somebody he cares about ends up coming to be. But it's his own fault, because in the story, there's no rhyme or reason why either character involved would let their guard down or get out of the equipment that is saving them in like this hostile environment. And even they themselves say it in the story that like, oh, this is like, you know, a hazardous environment. There's no time to talk type thing. And then, you know, like 3 pages later, they're talking with no weapons. Like, they purposely take off all the weapons they have. Like, it's so dumb. That's one that kind of rubs me the wrong way. Maybe it's more of a standout in my mind because it's towards the very end of the volume. But again, like, it's more of a minor character, and honestly, I would be fine with him being pushed out of the story because it lets some other ones that I think are a bit more deserving stand up into, like, the role that he essentially fulfilled. But, you know, that's just my little 2 cents there. Overall, guys, a fantastic volume. I really was racking my brain here trying to think if this is the best volume so far, and I think it's in top 3 because, you know, it's got so much of the story just focused on the turtles. It's got that, you know, street New York vibe to it that I just really dig. And then obviously having it primarily the focus of the foot. I didn't even mention it, but the moments that we get at Burnow Island do have a really cool feel to them. They're kind of like a, you know, sci-fi, like, alien space horror movie, but also like a whodunit murder mystery, kind of all entangled into one. So, you know, you kind of get some different flavors other than just like the street conflict of stuff. But, you know, I think I've said it before. I think, you know, everything to deal with the Foot Clan is probably like priority number, or at least, you know, maybe not priority number 1, but it's like the ones that are the coolest because it's ninja versus ninja. But I also love the sci-fi stuff just as much. So having kind of the best of both and kind of the play that they're doing with new directions throughout the volume, I thought it was super enjoyable. And honestly, I think the only one that, at least to my my short-term memory, that comes close to it is the volume that we had, the Secrets of the Foot Clan. Because that had some really cool action in it as well. But I think overall this one might be 1 or 2 on my spot. So with it, I'm giving it an F.F.A. It's really close to a pure Ecstasy, but I'm going to save myself some room here because I do think things can get even crazier and even better. But this is highly recommended, and if you guys are looking at starting the series, I recommend it. It's been nothing but great. I think it's being in my top 5 comics that I've read, or comic series I should say I've read. And with this volume, it won't be any different. And I can't wait to see what volume 8 has in store, as long as many others, because I do know that there is 12 of the IDW collection volumes out. So that'll be really cool to see as well. But with that being said, guys, we'll see you for the next video. And don't forget to tune back in when we have the Last Ronin issue 3, because I'm really dying to see, again, where we take our boy Michelangelo. So that'll be really cool. But anyway, guys, I'll talk to you later. And as always, peace, addicts.